Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan. Once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. When we look at a married relationship or wanting to get into a married relationship, today we may not look at a married relationship from the conventional times that we are in, from an actual marriage which is happening. A married relationship or marriage like relationship could also be through a live-in relationship, but where the partners are pretty open about it, socially they accept each other, parents and the friends may also accept that these two people are together. Sometimes, especially more in the western countries, we see that they also have children. Sometimes they have 2 or 3 children, they have a family, and sometimes they never get married. Sometimes they may get married after 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. But will they be accepted as a couple? Will they be seen as a family? Obviously. So where does marriage come into part, and how do we see the timing of marriage? So in today's time, it is very important to see that in conventional times, the way how marriage should be looked at or a relationship should be looked at should not be only through holy matrimony, because holy matrimony can also be in different ways in different religions. So which religions holy matrimony will you accept? Will you accept the Saat Feras that the Hindu marriage act involves, or the Nikah that the Muslim marriage act involves, or the vows that are exchanged in a Christian marriage? Different cultures may have their own ways. So the astrological terms or astrological perspective is that whichever culture you are in, if that culture accepts you as a couple, that's seen as a socially accepted relationship. In today's time, because a live-in relationship is also taken as a socially accepted relationship, especially in major cities around the world, and more so in almost every part of the western world. So in today's time, in Rahu's Yug, in the Kal Yug, they are all accepted. So how do you look at the beginning of a relationship? The beginning of the relationship is seen when somebody has the first sexual intercourse with somebody, not just a casual sexual fling. It is a sexual intercourse that you have with somebody, and after that you are regularly with each other. So the first time you have that, or somebody has proposed to a girl, she has accepted that proposal. Maybe the sexual intercourse may happen after 2 days, 3 days, maybe after months, but the day that they have accepted, yes, we are with each other, they have announced to everybody in the family, to the friends, that we have girlfriend, boyfriend, we are together, and they start to live in with each other. Even if the sexual act has happened later on, that is also a socially accepted relationship that will also be seen as a tying of the bonds or coming together or the partnership starting. The third way is the conventional way, where somebody may get a nikah even on the phone. In some Islamic traditions, it is possible to get into a nikah, into a holy matrimony even over the phone, and then the girl and the boy may meet each other after a week, and then maybe the sexual intercourse, the conjugal relationship may begin. So the third way is the conventional way, where either the vows are exchanged, or the nikah ceremony is happening, or the Saat Feras are taken. So these are the 3 ways in which you see the start of the relationship, and the start of the relationship can be seen very, very strongly from your D1 chart, your Lagna chart, and is corroborated by the D9 chart. It is not the other way around. If a relationship is completely being denied from your D1 chart, from your Lagna chart, then even having a very strong D9 chart will only help so much. It will not be supplementing the D1 chart, it has to complement the D1 chart, which is the D9 chart has to complement the D1 chart, the Lagna chart. Only then will the relationship will be given more promise that the relationship may come about. If the D1 chart is not showing a strong promise of a relationship coming about, then the D9 chart may show some pockets of hope, maybe a small short-term relationship happening which is hardly any relationship, and it breaks because it is not supported strongly by the D1 chart, by the Lagna chart. Now how do we see the union coming about through the D1 chart? I have already made many videos around this topic. I will not get into those details again. I will give you in the comment section those videos which will talk about the timing of marriage and how you should be looking at the dasha, antardasha and the transit. But in short, just to reiterate, the dasha or antardasha of these 4 house lords, either the Lagna lord, the 2nd lord, the 4th lord, the 7th lord, or the 11th lord, any of these lords, dasha or antardasha or a combination of that happens, then the marriage has a very strong opportunity of happening during that time. And if the transit of Jupiter or Saturn happens either over the Lagna or the 7th house, or over the natal position of the 7th lord or the Lagna lord, then too the marriage can happen. So Saturn and Jupiter are the biggest harbingers of a relationship happening either by transiting over the Lagna or the 7th house, or the Lagna lord or the 7th lord. So these are the strongest possibilities through the D1 chart. However, these have to be corroborated by the D9 chart. So how do you look at if the Lagna chart is not giving you a relationship even when the Dasha or Antardasha is on of any of these house lords, the Lagna, the 2nd, the 4th, the 7th and the 11th, then how do you see when the relationship may begin, when the relationship may come about? So for some reason, if the Lagna is not very strong, but it is medium strong, which means some houses are showing promise but some houses are creating an impediment, then you can see clearly through the D9 chart whether the marriage is happening. Now the D9 chart, the Navamsa chart, is a 9th part of the Lagna. So the planets transit through those charts is also 9 times faster than the transit of planets from the in the D1 chart. So for example, the transits of Venus, Mars, Sun and Mercury, the planets which transit anywhere between 20-21 days to 45-50 days depending on whether they are retrograde or not. So these will be seen much faster through the D9 chart. So if you create somebody's ascendant at a certain time and then after 5 days you create another ascendant or you create another horoscope, you will see that in the Lagna chart the planets in a certain sign may remain the same, but they would have changed. At least these 4 fast moving planets would have all changed their signs. In every 4 to 5 days they will keep changing their signs because they are moving much faster in transit over the D9 chart, because the D9 chart is the 9th part of the Lagna chart. So what happens is, because the planets are transiting faster, every time they transit over the 7th house for example, or the 4th house for example, or the 11th house, they create or they activate these houses. So you may meet somebody during a certain time, ending up getting into a sexual intercourse some other time when the planet transit is happening. After a few days you may introduce that person as your girlfriend to your friends. So within a span of 3-4 months, whenever the transits are happening over important houses, some activity may happen leading from one phase of the relationship to the other. So usually a romance may start when planets are transiting over your 5th house. Then the sexual intercourse may happen when the planets transiting over the 7th house for example. Introducing to your friends may happen either over the transit over the 11th house or the 2nd house for family or your friends, especially if the shorter duration planets such as Mars, Venus, Mercury or Sun are transiting over any of these houses. But if you have to see when the actual relationship may begin through the D9 chart and using the Lagna chart only as a guide but not as a negator. So if the Lagna chart is not negating a relationship but showing impediments and you want to be really sure whether the relationship is more probable, not a promise, not a guarantee, but more probable, then see these 3 houses which become more important. The 3rd house, the 11th house and the 7th house become very important for the D9 chart. In the Lagna chart, the 4th house and the 7th house are one of the most important houses for the establishment of a home through a conjugal relationship or through a committed relationship or through holy matrimony. However, in the D9 chart, you should see the 3rd house, the 11th house and the 7th house. The 4th house in the D9 chart shows more of a situation of the household after marriage, but not the establishment of the home itself. Whereas the 4th house in the D1 chart will show the establishment of a home, whether it's possible or not. Will somebody get into a holy matrimony or get into a committed relationship and establish a domestic life or not? That is seen from the 4th house of your D1 chart. But the 4th house of your D9 will show what is the probability of maintaining it, but it will not show the trigger of a relationship. The trigger of the relationship will be seen when important planetary transits either of Jupiter or Saturn may happen. The promise of a marriage in the D9 chart may be seen more if there are important planetary placements in either the 3rd house, 11th house or the 7th house, especially if Jupiter or Saturn are placed in these houses, because these are the Kama Bhavas and the shorter duration transits happening over these planets, especially if Jupiter or Saturn are placed in any of these houses, the 3rd or the 11th house or the 7th house, activating those houses, then that could be the period of start of a relationship, which could either be starting through a romantic relationship or through an arranged marriage, or getting to know somebody, getting into a conjugal relationship with them, and then being socially accepted as a couple in front of others. So for some reason, if your D1 chart is not giving you a denial of marriage but not giving you a very strong perspective of when the marriage may be happening, a lot of impediments are seen but not a denial, then the D9 charts, the 3rd, 11th and the 7th house can be a stronger indicator when the relationship may be happening. So the dasha and antardasha of those planets which are ruling the 3rd house, the 11th house and the 7th house could be triggering the right time of marriage, and transits over these house lords, the 3rd lord or the 11th lord or the 7th lord, may indicate when the relationship is beginning. So check the dasha and antardasha of these 3 house lords, the 3rd house, the 11th house and the 7th house in the D9 chart. See when the dasha or the antardasha is happening, and see when the important transits are happening over these houses or over these signs, when planets get into these signs during the transit. So say for example, your 11th sign is Pisces sign and Venus is transiting over your Pisces sign in the current transit, and the dasha of the 3rd lord and the 7th lord is on, then there is a higher chance that transit of Venus over the sign of Pisces or the 11th house during the dasha and antardasha of the 3rd lord and the 7th lord, the marriage may actually come about, the relationship may be started. This can be further corroborated by these 3rd lord, 11th lord and 7th lord in your D9 chart, which houses they rule in the Lagna chart, whether you have more benefics placed in those charts, whichever signs are getting into those houses, and if these are benefic planets, naturally benefic planets and benefic to the respective ascendant, and there are good yogas over those houses, over those signs, I mean, whichever houses they may be, then including the 8th house or the 12th house, then there is a higher chance that a relationship may be started during that phase, looking at the perspective of the D9 chart. So friends, in case you are not seeing the possibility of a relationship through your D1 chart, there seem to be a lot of impediments but not denial, then you can look at the 3rd house, the 11th house and the 7th house. What are the house lords, when the dasha antardasha is on, when the transits of planets are happening over them, that time the marriage or the relationship coming about is highly possible, as long as there is no denial in the Lagna chart. I have also made a video on when denial can be seen in the married life. I will give you those respective videos in the comment section below. Do see that, to see how from the Lagna chart you can see the possibility, the timing of the denial of the marriage, and using this technique which I have shown you, you can look at how at least a greater promise of a relationship coming about during the dasha antardasha of the 3rd lord, the 7th lord and the 11th lord can be seen from the D9 chart, including the transits of important planets over these sites. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me. The link is given below. Till some other time with some other video, this is your friend astrology and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.